Man, FSU went out sad. Let's talk about it. Now, I don't want to make this to talk mess about FSU or crap on their whole organization or act like they didn't deserve at least a look at the CFP. But I mean, my goodness. And stuff like that is exactly what the committee and the fans were trying to avoid when they didn't let FSU in. Now, I did hear that they didn't have some of their starters for that game, but what I didn't know is there was reports coming out that they had about 20 players who didn't show up. I mean, 20 starters that didn't show up for your team. Yikes. And I don't think that the outcome would have been very much different. I don't know if they get 60 put on them, but Georgia's a good team. FSU didn't look that impressive in their conference championship game. I still think that they would have probably taken a pretty significant L had they had their starters out there. But man, that was rough. Another thing too, if you're FSU, I mean, I get it from a player's perspective. At this point, if you're like a junior or senior about to enter the draft, you don't really have anything to prove. So coming back to show that, oh, we should have been in the college football playoff, it doesn't really show anything to anybody. It's like, yeah, you came back, risk potential injury, lost, and you were at least competitive with Georgia, which I think would have helped their case a lot if they actually were at least competitive, but that wasn't even close. And like I said, from a player's perspective, I definitely understand not going back to that game, especially to stick it to the committee and show them that, hey, it wasn't right for you guys to leave us out. But on the flip side of that, you kind of just played right into everyone's hand and what we were thinking in the first place, with FSU not really being able to share a field with any of the college football teams. And again, like I said, the players who opted out probably have better reasoning, better thought process, trying to save themselves a little bit. But if you are coming back and you plan to be with the program for maybe another year or two, or you're trying to bolster it up to get it where you want to go, definitely not showing up and getting the program's teeth kicked in like they did during that game was definitely not the way to go. I think a better thing that would have happened was if they brought everybody out, they were competitive, if they somehow managed a victory, or if they were at least within a touchdown to maybe 10 points. Anything outside of those double digits starts to look kind of iffy. And this is not even mentioning the fact that Georgia played their second string for pretty much all of the second half. So, I mean, yeah, FSU didn't have their best players out there, but Georgia was playing with the B team and they were still taking it to them. I remember I was kind of out and about, kind of hanging out a little bit, and I was thinking, oh yeah, that's right, that Georgia FSU game is on. I kind of want to check that out. Let me see what's going on with that. And I kid you not, Georgia had already had 21 points by the time I tuned in. I wasn't exactly shocked, but at the same time, it did catch me off guard a little bit. I was like, I mean, damn, I thought there was going to be a little bit more fight. So, I don't know. I'm just happy that next year and the following years we'll have more teams. They'll be more competitive. You play it out on the field. Sucks that FSU didn't get into the whole playoff situation, but at the same time, when they caught the beat down like that, it almost seemed warranted, whether or not they had their starters in there. the team that actually has the biggest case and has not, at least I haven't heard much of anything, is Georgia. They did lose their championship game, their conference championship game. So I mean, if you want to be there, you gotta win. But at the same time, having that crazy winning streak, back-to-back championships, not losing to anybody but in their conference championship game, I don't know. It feels kind of like they should have some sort of leniency, I guess, because had they lost to like Alabama, like the first or second game of the season, and then, went out the rest of the way, they would have still been in as a one-loss team. But I guess it's when it happened that sort of made it, detrimental to their season. But I don't know. I would have liked to see Georgia in there. I think that they're better than the pool, and I really do think that Alabama caught lightning in the bottle and really caught them off guard. And also, Nick Saban has a tendency to do that to his proteges. So it's just one of those things, man. I would like to see what Georgia would have done. They probably could have three-peated. Would have been really interesting, but it is what it is. Hopefully more teams. It's not going to assuage people, but it'll definitely make it a lot better going forward. Another thing that I think is interesting about this whole thing too is the fact that this 4-team playoff, with the exception of maybe a couple years, honestly has been minimally controversial when you think about how controversial the original FBS rankings were. I mean, those two teams that played in the championship every year were scrutinized to hell and back. Even if you won, it was like, yeah, but did you really beat the best team? And that, I mean, every year there was some type of controversy. Somebody was left out. Somebody wasn't put in. Somebody was put in incorrectly. Somebody beat up on a cupcake. I mean, that still happens now with the 4-team playoff, don't get me wrong. But I feel like once you have a good subset of games, you can sort of see who plays against who and how the matchups line up, and you kind of go, yeah, that's fair. They both had to play a decent team. They both had to get to the national championship, and then they had to win that national championship. These games have been competitive for the most part, except for what happened to TCU last year. But in their defense, they did beat another team that was in the college football playoff. So, I mean, they earned their spot, even though some people thought that maybe they shouldn't have been there. I think expanding the pool will help. Inevitably, if there's 12 teams, number 13 is going to be on the outside looking in pretty upset. But at the same time, I think it's a good start to expand the playoff, and I'm excited to see where it goes.